Hello. This talk, so normally my talks are audio only, but I wanted this one to be video for a couple of reasons. And the biggest one is I want to be able to show you what the devil card looks like. Now, I have attached a photograph to the talk so that you can see it in a still, but I also wanted to be able to show you during the talk what I was talking about. The devil card in tarot. So I've been reading tarot, I don't know. I started drawing cards for myself. I did it as a daily practice, and it was actually one of my very first promises and devotional acts to myself, for myself, after I became aware that there was something else out there. And I did it faithfully every single day, and I still do it every single day, with a few exceptions, but I did it every single day for about 3 years before things started clicking. I just kept doing it. And when I look back, I don't even know. Actually, I do know why I kept doing it, because what started happening was I would sit. I've got my cards here, so I'm just going to pull up a card like this. This card, I don't know how much you can see. Let me turn my light a little bit. I don't know how much you can see, but it's a cold environment. The tree looks like it doesn't have much living, or it's in dormancy. The cards tell you a lot, just by what's on the cards. But I started drawing a card, and I would sit with it, and I would look at it, and I would look at every single detail and start to imagine what it felt like. And then I would close my eyes, and I would begin to really go into what the card was. And eventually what started happening was people would be talking to me. I'm a therapist, if you didn't know, so many of you may know that. I'm a therapist, and I work with people who have trauma. And as they would be talking, I would see like the card above their head. I would see what they were talking about. It's almost like I could feel the vibration, and then I would see the card. And that was really exciting to me. And so I kept going. And then I started doing like full and complete reads for myself. And then I started doing readings for other people. The devil card is a card that I've spent quite a bit of time with for a lot of reasons. One, I just wanted to understand it. But two, I definitely grew up in an environment where there was a very specific definition to what a devil was. And I wanted to understand what the real reason, or what the real definition of a devil was, according to history, not according to fear, and what a specific group of people came to believe it was over time. So I think that there is a lot of value in looking back in time through anthropology, having some sort of like cultural awareness of what words meant to the people who sort of created the dialogue around it. And in any case, I wanted to talk about the devil card because there are so many misconceptions because of how many of us are raised. Many of us are raised with sort of, maybe they're fuzzy or muddy ideas of what the devil is, but we definitely, through movies and video games and just how Christianity is just part of our culture, we have sort of these ideas of what devil is. And so that's why we're talking about it today. So let's just jump right in. The two biggest words that I feel like are the overview of what the devil is: greed superficiality. Just underneath that, instability. So the card, when you draw it, it represents those three things: greed, superficiality, and instability. Now, there are about 1 trillion reasons that those three things could come about. And so the greater minutia, or the more sensitive vibration, the more specific vibration of the card, in my opinion, are things like, and I've written down a bunch: disruption, lies, projecting, the shadows that you have within yourself without having boundaries around them, anxiety, depression. In my opinion, the Devil card represents the ideas that are behind capitalism. That's a big thing to say, and I understand that. And capitalism, I guess if you're an economist, you might argue that it's been around forever and ever. I'm not sure. I'm not an economist. I don't know all of that, like history, but I do know that where there's been greed present, superficiality present, and insecurity has been a theme, that is where the vibration of the Devil card is. So look around you. Look around your life in particular. Look at the areas in which you're unhappy. Look at the areas in which you fight with your partner or your children or your family or your coworkers. What is underneath everything? What is at the bottom? It could be when you think about a situation that makes you feel insecure, or where you feel like you need to push back because there's like superficiality involved. Or maybe you identify that some of your sadness is because you're comparing yourself to other people and you're feeling like you don't have enough or that you're not enough. To me, that's about superficiality, because one of the greatest fallacies ever is that we're not enough and we're not okay as we are. And we are. It's just made up. Somebody just one day made up this idea that you have to have all of these things in order to be okay. You have to have all of this money, or this kind of house, or this kind of body, or this kind of car. Your children have to look this way and act this way in order for you to be okay or be enough. And it's just a lie. It's just not the truth at all. It's all very superficial. It's all very third dimensional. We're looking at higher dimensional living. We're looking at understanding how to pull polarity out of the picture and come into a world where no matter what is going on in our lives, we can understand that we're okay. It's just part of who we are as infinite beings. There are two reasons why insecurity, superficiality, greed, and then all of the things that I mentioned, all of those feelings that I mentioned before, why they come up for people. And so I want to be really clear that it's not always projected onto us, although it often is, but it's not always. And a lot of it can be caused from feelings we've developed, beliefs we've developed over our lives based on what we've been told, how we've been taught, how we were taught in school and in church, and like parts of these big belief systems, right? Part of what creates our culture and our cultural beliefs. It can also be present from some unprocessed emotion or body feelings. Could also be present from trauma And I want to just take 1 second to say there are, in my world, we call it little t trauma or big T trauma. Little t trauma would be like, I'm at school and I see someone being mean, not bullying, but just being kind of not nice to another kid. And you feel in your body what that feels like. If you're an empath, you know what I mean. And it's not trauma per se, but it definitely, you feel it in your gut and it impacts you. That's what we call little t trauma. So there could be hundreds or thousands or even millions of those experiences in your life. And by the time you're getting a little bit of age on you, you're getting some experience, you're 30 years old, 35, 40, guess what? There's a lot of those. There's a lot of those, and they impact us. And then there's big T trauma, which is like, no one would argue that it was, a terrible trauma. You were maybe in a car accident and you saw someone die or something like that. So like that is considered a big T trauma. So if you have unprocessed emotions or body feelings from those experiences or from just sort of living in this controlled society, you've probably got projections because you have beliefs about yourself, about the way you're supposed to be. So there's also superficial belief about ourselves, and that's part of when you're taking down, systematically the beliefs that others are projecting on you. Part of what you have to address also are the beliefs that you have created through no fault of your own, but just from living in this world. And that's just part of shadow work. I want to introduce the idea that truly, and I've mentioned this just a few minutes ago, but truly the devil card represents culture as we know it, the powers that be, the ways we do things that are truly created to drive millions of people into working their butts off their whole lives like slaves to pay off the debt that doesn't really exist anyway. It's like the idea that we were given, it's like you too can drive a really nice car and we'll give you a loan for it. Or a great example would even be education, right? Everybody, all of these scams with the student loans are being exposed now for what they've really done. They're very predatory. You too can have an education. You too can earn a lot of money if you have an education. And then you can buy all the things that you want. You can be part of this whole wheel that's just turning and turning and turning. But the trick is you have to pay off this debt your entire life. That is the devil card. That is superficial. That is like a promise that you're going to have something that you may or may not ever have, and it's based on the idea that you need to have these things or this kind of life in order to be happy or to be worth anything. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting better things in your life or wanting a better car, wanting a better house. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is the idea that until you get there, you're not enough or you're no good. There's no way you're going to measure up. You're never going to be able to be with the person you want to be with or look the way that you want to look until you have those particular things. And so I want you guys to really start thinking about the things that are in your lives, the things that are in your lives that take on this vibration. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, go into your body, go in through the top of your head, and just move down your body until you get to your solar plexus, which is just beneath your rib cage. Now think about capitalism. Think about war. Think about how throughout time, power and greed has been a very important part of history. Look at how that shows up in your life today. Look at the sacrifices you're making so that you can create a different belief about yourself. Are they fair? Are they reasonable? Some of them are. Some of them aren't. Feel in that area just below your rib cage. What do you notice that you're feeling? Think about ways you've been taken advantage of throughout your life. That's the feeling. For some of you, think about the student loans that you're still paying. For some of you, think about the raise that has been denied you. That is the vibration of this card. Those beliefs that bring sadness, anxiety, disruption, instability to your life. Think about greed. Where does it show up? Maybe in your life, maybe in your sort of outer sphere. Just think about it. Begin to notice this concept in action around you. It's a really, really valuable exercise, and one that could potentially change your perspective forever. In tarot, the devil is the opposite feeling as the Lover's card. The Lover's card is about harmony and balance and security and feeling like in all areas you are enough and you have enough and life is good and you've created what you want and there's harmony and peace there. That is the opposite. Anything that pulls you out of this is this, no matter what it is or how it shows up. I've just, noticed some patterns that have a lot to do with greed, superficiality. Think about greed in terms of money, and also consider greed not in terms of money. Who's greedy with your time? How are you greedy with other people's time? How are you greedy with your time? I find personally that I have a very hard time when people want a lot of my time, like they have a lot of expectation around my time. This is people that I love, very much, that are in my life. It's hard for me to deal with that. Well, I've finally come to understand that it's not about anything other than they just want more of the vibration that I'm holding. It's not personal. It's not like they're trying to hurt me or to make me feel like put upon or anything like that. And I understand too that it's about unprocessed stuff. And I had to start really taking inventory of the way that I gave my energy away, because it wasn't authentic. It was superficial. I was giving it away because honestly, then I feel accepted and validated. This is human nature. We all do this a lot. When I started recognizing that was the reason that is greed. That is superficiality to me. Because authentically, if I were to go deep, 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 deep into my gut, I know that I really am okay as I am. I don't need all of that. And so I want to take care of myself differently and better by saying no sometimes, even though it's hard to do for a lot of us. And so I started doing that. And I became more authentically me in the process. And I became more peaceful and more happy. And it turns out you don't have to be ugly to do that. You just say, oh, thanks. No, thank you. Next time. How about in 3 weeks instead of today? You know, understand that it's not personal. It doesn't have to be a polarity thing. It doesn't have to be that, well, they're trying to take up so much of my time, or they're trying to take up so much of my energy and they're bad. No, it's just stuff that's not processed. And as you can get more into your core and more into the authentic part of who you are, you begin to see without polarity more and more and more. Because in all actuality, I am them and they are me. They're just different representations of me, and I'm a different representation of them. That's all. We're all energy from the same source. Why does it have to be something I'm mad about? Take care of yourself, Angelyn, and then you don't have to be mad, right? Start seeing where the devil card shows up in your life. Start seeing where the devil card shows up in your world, and try to be more mindful. That's all. I welcome questions and comments about this topic as always, and I thank you for joining me. Thanks so much.